Hello and welcome back to Chapter 2 of Behind the Words TV with Sharon Zehnder. I'm Paul Madsen, host of the program and the founder of growmedia.com. Sharon, good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
And thanks for coming back for the Chapter 2 here. We're going to talk some more about your book, CrossWords for Grief. And I read the book and loved it. It's a book for who, Sharon?
For anyone who's grieving.
Anyone who's grieving. A lot of grief out there these days.
There is. There is.
All sorts of kind, especially focused, I think, on people who've lost someone.
Yes.
And that is your background, is that correct?
Yes, I have a background in family services and got my master's and worked in this area of grief.
Long time. You even have a day job doing it. What's that?
I work as the aftercare director at Heafy, Hoffman, Dwork, and Cutler Mortuary here in Omaha.
Help people come and process their grief, basically.
Well, I meet with them to help them know resources to help them with their grief, and then we offer the support groups as well.
Yeah, those support groups, I've heard about those, are a good offering for the community. And you know, people don't know what to do, who to be, what to act like after they lose a loved one. And so I encourage people who've been through that to work with Sharon on that group. They meet once a month.
My group that I work with as a facilitator is once a month. We have another counselor that works twice a month, and then we have a weekly, more social group.
Okay, great. All sorts of opportunities there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have that information at the end of the telecast here, and so you can know how to contact Sharon about that. So why did you write this book, Sharon?
I just wanted people to, for me, knowing when I've walked through grief, the best help I've found is with the Lord. And so I wanted to put a devotional tool out there that would be both biblical but also practical. There's a lot of practical stuff in there to help people process through their feelings.
What I loved about it is you brought in personal stories of family vacations or mom's pressure cooker or whatever, all sorts of real life stuff. This is not just pie in the sky. Yeah. And then you bring in the whole thing of the biblical, and not just, you know, here's a Bible verse, but you talk about what it means and the context of it. Mm-hmm. But yet it's not overly theological either. So
no,
I don't know how you did
that.
it, but it's a blend. Well, tell briefly how you broke up, how you came up with the chapter titles. I mean, we have hope, lonely, love, comfort, emptied, strength, faith. These are words that people gave to you?
Yes, they were researched words. It was part of my master's project, so it is well researched, and it's asking people who they themselves are grieving, what do you need help with?
And they responded with these 30 different
30 words.
Words, and as someone who's gone through grief, you have all that churning stuff in your head all the time and that noise. And so if I wake up in the morning and I'm landed on a word, what do I do with your book?
You can turn to the word. You know, if you're having a thought or an emotion, you can look at the different 30 words, and you can turn to whatever it is you're feeling or want to feel, and you're going to find some help from the Lord. I'm trying to just connect you. He's the one that is the source of help.
Laid it on, yeah.
And then there's practical stuff in there as well.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I don't have to read the whole book.
No, you don't.
I could just pick out a segment in there, the one segment.
Skip around and...
Skip around,
yep.
Okay. Well, I have your permission from the author, all right. Well, although I did read the whole book, so so that was good. You mentioned practical things as far as what people can do, and your book talks about them, of course, too. I mean, I need to work out my grief. What do I do? I mean, how do I get to that point, Sharon?
Yeah.
They say your grief is work, or working on your grief. Grief's work.
Grief is hard
work. You know, it sounds like a big job, and I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I just wonder how to deal with that. What are some practical tools?
Yeah. One of the things I talk about is educate yourself. It's helpful to educate yourself with anything you go through. So that's where picking up books that talk about grief, you know, it's very important. And then when I'm just trying to help people be practical with their grief, I landed on what I call 4 outs.
Outs, okay.
They're under the word heal in the book. Okay. And the 4 outs are: you talk it out, you cry it out, you write it out, and you work it out. And then in the book, I talk about each one in a very practical way. What does that look like? do you want me to just
Yeah,
hit
let's start with a couple of them. You bet.
Okay. When I talk about talk it out, the emphasis there is find what I call your safe people. Maybe you have one or two safe people that are like a gift of gold, and you talk about your loss with them. You talk about your loved one. You say their name. And this person they're good listeners, they care about you, and they're not trying to fix you.
Yeah, that's a key, isn't it? Because so often people try to fix them. I mean, I've heard of terrible stories where at a funeral where someone said to a new widow, like, at the funeral, don't worry, you're young, you'll find another husband. At the funeral, they're telling.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's not talking it out in a healthy way, is it? No. Anything else about talking it out?
That's kind of the main point, that when I hit that one, it's just letting the importance of talking about it and processing it.
Well, I love your idea of the safe person, someone you trust, someone who can handle it and really be your friend in that situation. What's the next out?
The next one is cry it out. And under that one, the principle there isn't how much you cry or how often.
Okay.
That's going to vary.
Yeah.
People vary on that. The importance is if you need to cry, you're okay to cry.
Yeah.
Because you can feel those emotions.
Yeah.
And God gave us tear ducts for a reason.
Yeah.
And there's some great things in the book, about this under the tears word and other segments where I just talk about, and it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, it's okay to feel. And if you don't get that stuff out, getting it out is healthy. If it goes in, it's unhealthy.
Right,
that creates stress.
Yeah.
So getting it out is just making it healthy for you. And there's
Kind of like that pressure cooker release. Tell briefly about that.
Yeah, it's like I grew up on a farm, and my mom had a pressure cooker. I helped her with canning, and oh my goodness, I was so scared of that pressure cooker. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, and the audience knows what I'm talking about. If you've been around those old pressure cookers, not the current ones.
They've got the release valve, right?
Yeah, and they do. They have a release valve, and if you don't get that release valve turned, or get that thing off the stove, you're going to have an explosion in your kitchen.
And so that's what you're talking about, cry it out, have a release.
Yep.
What's the next out?
The third one is to write it out. I've got 3 different methods I talk about. If you can journal on your own, but if somebody's like, I don't know how to journal, I give you 3 different methods that you can try, and each one of them provides different things, and I tell people it's a tool. Not everybody is designed to be a journaler, but almost every grief author that you read talks about the value of journaling.
Right.
And it's healthy with other things as well. So I talk about different methods where you can journal. And one method is a 2-sentence approach. Another method is journaling to God. It brings in the lamenting. You're going to find lamenting talked about quite a bit in the group in the book under different segments. And then the last one is just having an ongoing journal where you write to your loved one. Okay. Almost everybody talks to their loved one, but they don't go around talking about it.
Yeah.
And this isn't getting weird. It's just some of those things that people talk about in the privacy of their home or at the gravesite. Sometimes you can just write them down, and it just helps you to process.
That's beautiful. The 4 outs, and the other one, last one, we don't have
one
time.
is work it out.
Exercise, fitness, the
endorphins.
book, CrossWords for Grief by Sharon Zehnder, and it is a helpful tool for anybody in a grief situation, including loss of a loved one. Sharon, thanks for joining us on Chapter 2.
You're welcome, Paul. Thank you.